Hello, my friends. John LaRuffa here with another strip solo. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at Lord of the Rings, Fate of the Fellowship. This is the pandemic system-based cooperative game with the Lord of the Rings theme and heavy gameplay influence. So let's go ahead and take a look from a solo standpoint. Okay, folks, and as usual, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. If you have, I do really appreciate the support. Thank you very much. So this game is what I would say very much a Lord of the Rings game, built into the pandemic system much more loosely. I don't feel like I'm playing pandemic at all. I feel like I'm playing a Lord of the Rings game. I shouldn't say at all. There's some things there, but this is for anybody who's worried it would just be like Lord of the Rings theme pasted on. No, this is a Lord of the Rings feeling game that uses the pandemic system loosely to get the job done. Now, what are you doing? Well, it's Lord of the Rings. You're trying to destroy the One Ring for sure. That's what you have to do. You always have this objective to destroy the One Ring, and to do that, you've got to get Frodo and Sam, who count as one character, to Mount Doom, and you have to spend 5 ring tokens and/or cards together, and then you have to survive one last search check. And if you do that and you don't lose hope, you win the game. But before you can do that, you have to accomplish 3 randomly drawn objectives. And there is a big stack of objectives that the game gives you, which provides a ton of replayability. And I'll give you some examples. This one I already completed. This was attain the blessings of the elves. Okay, so all I had to do for this one is get some of my characters into the Rivendell area, and then I had to spend 3 hearts, and that allowed me, as long as there's one other character present there, so 2 of my characters, and that allowed me to then put 3 elves into the supply to use. But most importantly, this allowed to get a little more hope, and it's one of the 3 objectives you have to complete in this case before you can do the final one. Okay. Now I have other ones that are a little bit more difficult than that. I have this one, which is Saruman, your staff is broken, and I'm on the way to doing that. Basically, I had to clear out all of the shadow forces from Rohan, and I need to convert Isengard into a haven. Right now, it is a stronghold. I need to make it a haven. When I do this, I'm going to be able to complete that objective. And also, doing that, we'll do a few other things, which I'll kind of get into in a second. But in order to do that, I have to spend 3 to convert something into a haven. You have to, it's called capturing. You have to spend 3 cards that have the swords, the cross swords on them, and/or tokens with the cross swords, which just is not one of them. And so I'm close to achieving that one. Then I have the final objective here, which is challenge Sauron, where I have to basically bring a mixed force of elves, Rohan soldiers, and soldiers from, for pity's sake, it's escape Gondor, to this location right here. And when I do that, I can have a character spend an action to complete this objective. Okay. And when I do that, then all these shadow troops go to Udin. Pardon me, Udun. I'm sorry about the pronunciation. But then I complete that objective. So then I'm finally able to destroy the ring, and that's what you're trying to do. Now, how do I do it? Well, first of all, I'm playing the solo version of this game, and in the solo version of the game, you control 4 different characters plus Frodo and Sam. On your turn, each of those characters gets 4 actions, similar to Pandemic. And then Sam and Frodo can take a bonus action before or after, which is just a single action. Each of the characters have 2 or 3 special abilities that they have that nobody else does. Okay, so for instance, the Merry and Pippin character has Loyal Friend. As an action, once per turn, I can gain one of these fellowship tokens from the supply. I also have Distraction at any time, not as an action, used on any player's turn. If there are fewer than 4 Nazgul in Merry and Pippin's region, you may spend one of those fellowship tokens or any card with a fellowship on it to move 2 Nazguls to their region. So that's a way to pull some of them out of Mordor to make it possible to hopefully pass that check at the end, or to move them anywhere else. And so then there's this final one, action. It says, give the song. If Merry and Pippin are in Frodo's location, spend 3 hearts to gain 2 hope. And that is extremely helpful, because if you get to 0 hope, you automatically lose the game. That's really the main way you lose the game. Maybe the only way you lose the game, actually, because everything else kind of funnels into that. Actually, it is. So if you can't place enough troops, your hope goes down. If you can't draw enough cards, your hope goes down, etc., etc. So anyway, the characters in this game feel very thematic and also do pretty different things from one another. And there's a huge stack of characters also. All the main ones that you'd expect are represented in the game. And so I'm just playing with this setup right here, but there are plenty that you can choose from, mix and matching. Now, what makes this a pandemic style game? Well, the actions are sort of like Pandemic. The fact is, the only thing that really feels majorly Pandemic to me is the 4 actions, the drawing of 2 cards that may reveal a card that like restacks this shadow deck, and then the resolution of the shadow deck with a threat. Depending on how many threat cards you hit, or threat points are up on the board, I have 3, you would draw 3 of them. And so really that is the main thing. Now they do bring in aspects from other Pandemic, like the marching of troops, which was similar to the Roman-themed Pandemic game, and that is done very well here. And the playing of cards. So when you want to play, there's a couple reasons you have to play the cards in this game. Number 1, to do some of those objectives like I talked about. Number 2, in order to travel on some of these special paths over here, you actually have to play the cards or the tokens shown to get over those paths. So in order to sneak into Mordor, you have to do a lot of sneaking cards to do that. And so that's very much like a Pandemic feel. To convert those, or to capture the shadow strongholds, you have to play the 3 cards with the, swords and shield. The other things you can do with the ring cards, of course, you need them. You need 5 ring cards and/or tokens to win the game, to spend in Mount Doom. And you will use the fellowship tokens to do muster actions, okay? And that allows you to add troops to the board when you spend them in particular cities of the particular types where the troops would muster from, okay? So there's also some other things, the fellowship, but this doesn't come into the solo game at all, where you are trading cards if you're in the same spot and region. That doesn't happen at all in the solo, because you use 1 hand of cards. Your hand limit is 7, but you can have as many tokens as you want, and every character utilizes the same group of 7 cards, or same hand of cards, I should say, and your tokens. The other thing you could do is you could prepare, which is important because that's where you just trade a card in as an action to get a token, and that helps you mass up some of these tokens, which you're going to need in order to win the game, okay? And that helps deal with the some of the hand limit. However, in the solo game, you've got the card that you're going to trade in, you have to be in that same region to do that. So for instance, if I wanted to trade this in for a fellowship token here, then I would actually have to be in the region of Gondor to do it. Any one of these locations, but I'd have to be in Gondor to do it. And so that puts a little bit of challenge on you. So you have to move your characters around in such a way where they're going to be where they need to be to prepare yourself for what you need, okay? Now, I think the best thing to do at this point would be to just demonstrate a couple of, really a full turn here to give you a feel for it, all right? So right now, Merry and Pippin, it's their turn. They are up here. I've got them up here because I need them to bring troops down here from just to help out with all of this. Oops. And they don't specifically need, the dwarves, who are the gray troops, are not specifically needed at all for that final objective, but I really need to keep control of these sites, because if the shadow troops ever move to a yellow location and there are no friendly troops of mine there, it automatically flips into one of those strongholds and I lose hope. I lose 3 hope, as a matter of fact, and it's a great way to lose really quickly. So you got to be careful of that. So that's what they're doing up there. So I'm going to try to move around and I'm going to try to get the troops down there. Now, the other thing I'm always going to do is I love the special action that they can do is to gain the fellowship. So the first action of their 4, I'm going to gain that fellowship token. All right. Then I'm going to distract. So I've got a lot of these guys right here, but I also have some over here. And I could spend this to move up to 2 Nazguls to their region and basically take the pressure off of Frodo and Sam, which is what I want to do. So I'm going to spend that. This is not an action, but I'm going to move these guys up here where I don't have to really worry about them as much right now. Now, the next move I'm going to do is I'm going to do a travel move, and none of these paths up here have anything particularly challenging in regards to the travel. So I can just, what I mean by that is I can just move there for an action. I don't have to spend any cards. So I'm going to move here to the Woodland Realm, and that's action number 2. And then action number 3, I'm going to take the troop with me, which doesn't cost anything, go over here. And action number 4, I'm going to move over here to Iron Hills. So let me make sure I didn't take too many actions. I took the 1, I spent the other, I moved 3 times. 1, 2, 3. There we go. I'm good. So you can travel with other people and move them around, which is very helpful to get groups of people together. It keeps you from having to like chain things along one turn at a time, which makes it much easier to traverse this big board. So their turn is done. Now I have one bonus action I could take with Frodo and Sam. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spend this fellowship token because it says here, Elrond support. Once per turn, when Frodo prepares, if he is at a haven in the region named on the card, also gain 1 token from 1 fellowship token from the supply. So I do want him to prepare, and I do have a Gondor card, so I'm going to prepare this card. I'm going to get that fellowship token. I'm going to get a 2nd fellowship token. So these fellowship tokens are very helpful because they help me deal with or ignore bad results from the search action. And the search action is a primary way that you're going to lose hope. And that basically happens anytime Frodo and Sam move to a location and don't spend a sneak icon. If that happens, the way it works is for every Nazgul that's in the region they're moving to, plus for every shadow troop that's in the destination that they're in, they have to roll these shadow dice. I think they're called shadow dice. These dice here. And these dice are going to, in the best case, bring the Nazgul back to Mordor. Unless you're getting close to Mordor, then you don't want that. So the other one is a blank, which is good. This tree result here means you lose a hope, which of course that's how you lose. And this one is lose a hope unless you're at a haven, then you could ignore that. So you don't really want to be making search checks often because that's kind of how I got myself into this mess over here. I took a couple of chances and they were probably not worth it. The other thing you have to deal with is this token right here where the Eye of Sauron is on your region. And when that happens, you're more likely to have searches happen over and over again. And so unfortunately, he is here because of my previous actions in that region. So now I've done my turn. So we draw 2 cards. Okay, very good. I got another one of those cards with the swords. Oh, good. It's an event. So I can play this one at a time. It says, current player reveal up to 4 cards from the top of the player deck. They may optionally add one of them to their hand. Return unselected cards to the top of the deck in any order. So that just lets me look in here and see what's coming. Now, right now, I have all the things I need to accomplish an objective, and thankfully, she is right there to do it. So we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so I've completed my turn. I've taken the 2 cards. Now, for the threats, I have to flip over these cards right here and resolve them. So what happens is, in this game, you combine the card with the back of the other card. And when it's got this flag, all right, with the Eye of Sauron on it, I do the bottom portion of the card. In this case, it is to reinforce Nirn with one of the shadow troopers over here, or the bad guys. Orcs, goblins, etc. And then it says move 2 Nazgul closer to Frodo, which is unfortunate because I just got him out of there. But I will at least move these two, so they're getting out of Mordor. And then it says, if tied, players choose. Okay, so that's it. All right, so we're done with that. Now, if they had reinforced a place where there'd be a battle, there would have been a battle. There wasn't. Next one. Same thing, almost the same thing. We're going to have another troop over here in this region. Shift the eye to Frodo's region. If it's already there, roll a search. Okay, so this is where we got some problems. So I got to roll a search with 2 search die because there are 2 in his region, 2 of the Nazgul. We're going to roll the search die. Oh, man, that's not good. So I got 1 hope. I lose 1 hope. However, I'm going to play one of these fellowship tokens because it says whenever a search is rolled, you may spend a heart to ignore the same number of those despair hope, lose 1 hope sides. So luckily I dodged that. Final one. This is a movement one. So it's going to move on the path from near Harad to Helm's Deep. And so we're going to do that because of this flag. So I look at this path and I see, are there any guys on it? Helm's Deep? No, there are not, because I wiped them out in previous turns. So that doesn't do anything. I don't have to do anything there. I just let it go. And so I'm lucky there. So I'm done with that turn. I'm going to put these in the discard pile, so to speak. Yeah, it is the discard pile. And then I go to the next turn. So we're going to move this over here. And I'm now going to take turns, 4 actions with Eowyn, and 1 more bonus action with them. If I want to, I don't have to. So I have a choice there too. I could decide. Now, this would be where I would accomplish this event by capturing. So I'm going to show you that right now. So I'm in a shadow stronghold, okay? And I have at least 1 of the friendly troops there and no enemy troops present. So I can spend all 3 of these. Whoops, not this one. All 3 of these to accomplish that, to turn this into a haven, which is good because lots of good things can happen in havens. They don't spawn troops. That gives me 2 hope back, which is excellent, which I need. And then that also accomplishes this objective. So it says complete if both are true. Isengard is a haven and Rohan is free of shadow troops and shadow strongholds. When completed, the current player may gain a ring token from the supply. So we've got that one done. I got a ring token. I still have a few more turns. So with these few more turns, I've got a couple of choices to make. I'm really kind of overrun up here, which could be dangerous because these guys won't take too long till we get problems up there. But I really also need to bring the troops from Rohan down here to accomplish that final objective. So in the interest of just moving this example along, I'm going to bring them down there. And I'm going to first do Elrond's Sight. This is an event, so it does not count as a turn. I'm going to look at these top 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what am I looking for here? Well, it would be nice to have more stealth tokens. I need those. And Eriador, I have another character up there, so I could turn that into a stealth token, which I'm going to need if I'm going to sneak in there. I don't need any of these right now, and I don't need this yet, but I do need it eventually, but I can get it later. So what I'll do is I'll take those, I'll put it back like so, and it's in the Misty Mountains. Actually, yeah, I want that one to be drawn first, and Eriador second. All right. So it said take one of those cards. I will. I'll take this one. No. Actually, I take the Misty Mountain one. It really doesn't matter from what I'm trying to do here. Return the unselected cards to the top in any order. Okay. So now I'm going to move with these guys. So we're just going to go 1, 2, and 3. So we're stationed there. That's the end of the turn. I have a bonus turn I could do with Frodo and Sam. What would be nice is if I could find a way to muster down there. And so I have a way to do that. I can spend this fellowship token and I can muster the color of that location, which is good. So now we have the 3 blue troops necessary, and I've got brown troops coming, so I need some elves, which is going to take a little bit longer because you can only muster those elves way up at the top. All right. So you get a good feel. Okay, well, now I got to draw my 2 cards. 1, 2. And I'm going to do this again just for another example. So 3 of these. So the first one is Nearhod to Helm's Deep. Luckily, Nearhod and Helm's Deep is exhausted. We killed those guys. And that was a move. Then it's going to move from Dunland to Rivendell. So Dunland to Rivendell on the green arrow is going to move this here. Okay? And then finally, the third is the Drums of War. Add 1 shadow troop to every shadow stronghold in Mordor. Now, if I didn't have enough, it's just the shadow strongholds now, which are the red spaces. If I did not have enough to add, I would lose 1 hope for every one I don't have to add. Unlike Pandemic, there is no outbreak. There is no maximum number of troops, so to speak, in a spot. There's no cascading situation in this game. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't. There's none of those mechanics happen. Now, the one thing I haven't shown you is the actual combat, which is kind of a big part of this game. And I'm just going to describe it to you by setting up the situation. Well, I guess I could take 1 turn right here, but this would be kind of silly. But I'll do it anyway, just to show you. So I can attack whenever there is a character and a friendly troop with some shadow troops. So I can attack right there. And if Gandalf is present when the battle is rolled, you may spend 1 of these tokens to change the dice to any result you want. Okay? So I think what I'm going to do, actually, the first thing I'm going to do on his turn is I'm going to spend this to do the prepare. Because I'm not at a haven. Never mind. I'm at a stronghold. I can't prepare there. Never mind. So yes, let's do this. Let's go ahead and do the battle. So what happens is I can start a battle here. I have to roll at least 1 of these. But I can roll up to 3 battle dice per friendly troop I have. Okay? So I'm going to roll the 1. Okay, good. It killed 1 of the shadow troops. But it could have also been an exchange where it killed 1 of mine, killed 1 of his. It could have been this where it just killed 1 of mine unless I was at a haven, which I'm not. And it could have been this, which doesn't matter because there's no Nazguls in there. But if there were, I would lose 2 friendly troops for that. Now, also at the end of the combat, I can spend any card with a sword, a set of swords on there, to remove another shadow troop, which is good. So that helps me to work that down. And if with any luck, I'll actually be able to win again. So I've done 1 battle, but there's nothing that stops me from doing another one. So I'm going to try again. This action number 2, I'll do another battle here because it's not an attack, or I should say an attack. So here we go. Let's try again. Oh, wow, that's lucky. Okay, so I wiped out the shadow troop. That's really good. Now I have 2 more moves I could make with him. I need him to travel with the trooper, so we're going to go like this instead. We're going to go 1, 2. Those will be my 4 moves. And hopefully I can muster with some fellowship tokens next time and get some elves together and get my army where it needs to be so I can accomplish that last objective. Now, what would I do with my final move here with Frodo and Sam? I might not do anything because I've already done a good job preparing here. But what would be nice is to get out of this location so I don't have to deal with these search tokens. So in effect, I am going to do something. I'm going to spend this Eriador card for a search, or for a sneak, pardon me. And I'm going to sneak out the back over here and go over here. So that way I am in a different, well, shoot, that puts me in Moria or Mordor. So that's even worse. So if we roll a search in Mordor, I'm in deep trouble. No, I'm not in Mordor. Pardon me. I'm in Ithilien. Sorry, I didn't see that. So I'm good. I'm safe. That's better. Because now when I resolve these 3, I won't have to deal with the potential for searches right where I am. And that could really drop my hope really fast because I have no way to mitigate it now. I don't have any fellowship tokens. So the first one here, okay, Rune to, moving from Rune to Woodland Realm. And so it's going to take all 4 of these guys, 5 of these guys, and march them up there. So that's actually going to really be a challenge, but hopefully I can soften some up. Next one, Dunland to Grey Havens. So it's now, do I have anybody in Dunland? No. We have gotten rid of them. They moved away. So there, that is nothing, thankfully. And finally, reinforcing in Isengard. However, because I made this a haven, it does not happen. So I can ignore that. So that's really good. However, I still have to do this. Shift the eye to Frodo's region. If it's already there, roll a search. So luckily, I wasn't there. Otherwise, I'd have to roll a search. Now it's over here, and he's still looking at me, so that's no good. Okay. I think you got a good feel of the way the game plays. Now, let me tell you what I think about it. So let me get one thing out of the way first. The dice tower looks really cool, but it is not the greatest from a dice tower perspective. If you roll a whole handful of dice in there, I keep getting them caught for whatever reason. I checked, I built it right. So you kind of have to roll one at a time to avoid that. Minor nitpick, it does look cool. I'm glad it's in there, but it's not like you can just toss a whole bunch of dice in there like a normal dice tower. It's kind of a one at a time sort of thing, in my opinion. All right, second of all, this game definitely feels like a Lord of the Rings game and not a pandemic game. I keep saying that because I want to make the distinction. If you have a lot of pandemic games in your collection, you will not feel like you are doing a retread by adding this one. I haven't played all of the different spin-offs of Pandemic, but the ones that I have played, like Pandemic, it's not the, I can't remember the name, the Flood one, when you're in the Netherlands, that clearly felt like Pandemic. The Rising Tide, that's what it was. The Roman one definitely felt a decent amount like Pandemic, but you had troop movements were a little bit different. That one was a little bit different than this one. I felt like the Cthulhu one felt a lot like Pandemic. I never played the Star Wars one, so I don't know how that feels. But this definitely does not feel like a Pandemic clone. So if you're worried about that, don't be. What you need to do is think about, do I like a game that is a strategic, I don't even know if I want to say resource management, because that's not really what it is, but it's a strategic hybrid of a game where you're using cards to get the resources you need to accomplish the objectives you want to ultimately try and win the game. And yes, there still is the final piece of the Pandemic puzzle where I've got to amass a bunch of such and such cards / tokens to be able to win. And then I have to set it up so that I'm likely to survive that final search roll to win. So it's not just like it all comes down to one big dice chuck. That's not true, because you can definitely prepare yourself better for it, and you can move the Nazguls away if you have the right characters. And there's a lot of different things you could do. But you have to do that Pandemic style of, I got to still keep gathering cards and amassing them until I get what I need. However, the ability for you to prepare takes away the feeling of being clogged when you have in the old game. Like I always felt like, oh gosh, I have these cards I really don't need. Oh, I'll spend them here, I'll move, spend them there, I'll move. That you don't have that here. It doesn't feel like that at all. Plus, you're not spending cards really. You do on some of the special paths to spend a specific type of card, but you're not using the cards to like traverse all over the board or anything. So again, I think this is its own game, and I think it is a very, very, very good game. It is very interesting when you put together the different characters and the different objectives. It dramatically changes what you're trying to do in order to accomplish the objective of winning. And so it has a ton more replayability, in my opinion, than some of the other Pandemic games, which were very similar, except for a little bit different, asymmetric starting player powers, or I shouldn't say starting, but player powers. Here you have a very asymmetric bunch of player powers for sure, but you also have those objectives which completely change it. And I think that is probably the best thing about the game, is the combination of a ton of different characters to choose from, which are meaningfully different than one another, and also a bunch of different objectives that you can mix in. Now, I know that other Pandemic games had objectives. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that this isn't using some of those systems. It definitely is. It's using that. It's using some of the ones with, the troop movement. That was well done. Used, actually enhanced upon heavily with all the different paths and such. But it really is it feels like a really good, solid game, and they put a ton of effort into it. and they did it in a way that makes it its own thing. And I like that. I'm glad it wasn't just a pandemic money grab, so to speak, or a Lord of the Rings money grab for that matter, because it feels like an epic kind of game. And from a solo standpoint, the way they put together the solo thing, I think is really cool. I love using one-handed cards and four different characters plus Frodo and Sam. I think that is a really good way to play because you don't have just this sprawling bunch of cards all over the place, but yet you get all the feeling that you need from the board presence. And they do make it a little bit tougher where you can't just prepare wherever you want. You have to prepare in the region that the card matches. In the other game, when you're playing multiplayer or more than one, you don't have to be in that matching region. You could just be in a haven. So there's stuff there that I think really lends to a uniqueness and a solid amount of replayability and very, very enjoyable game factor here. So if you're on the fence, I'm probably pushing you over. If you like Lord of the Rings and you like the idea of this kind of gameplay and this theme, it's a slam dunk. Very, very, very highly recommended. If you feel like you're saturated on pandemic games and you have all of them, you don't need another one, don't worry. You can get this and you won't feel that. I know a lot of people said that they felt like it was dragging. I don't get that at all. Maybe sometimes with some of the objectives together, they may be really difficult to accomplish. That you just have to be a little bit quicker, I guess, in how you play it. But it's definitely longer than the basic game of Pandemic. It's going to take, I'm not sure, I can't remember what the box says. Yeah, 90, oh no, it says 60 to 150. So it could be a while, and I could see that. But I don't feel like it drags either. There's a lot of stuff to consider, and when you focus on those objectives, if you're really trying to coordinate that the best way possible, well, you're going to be in, it just depends on how that all goes, I suppose. So high marks for me. I hope this review was helpful. I mean, I'm trying to think of downsides here. I really don't have any. Honestly, I really like this game. It is very cool, and there's a lot to explore and enjoy. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. Whatever you do in the future, I really hope you have a fantastic time doing. Take it easy.